Alright, so video number 2. Well, actually, it's listed as number 1, but it's video 2. Now, this one I made kind of on a whim to demonstrate constructors without kind of dropping you in it. It's got lots of comments, so I think that you'll find that okay. Okay, so I have a class, and it's called DieMaster. Now, here is DieMaster. It's really not that big. It has two things. It has the constructor, which is right here, very tiny thing. It has this thing. It's a property, which is for holding the value of the number of sides on a piece of die that you're going to make. So you can make any number-sided die that you might want. You can make a 4-sided die, a 6-sided die, or a 20-sided die, which I will show you. And this thing is roll, and it's a randomized type of thing that will roll the die and then return the die that was rolled. Okay, so we go back to form. Now, you'll notice here that I have created or instantiated 3 things here: FS, SS, and TS. And guess what? Those are 4-sided, 6-sided, 20-sided. But what I do is I use the same class. Here's the reusability that everyone touts. We use the same class, and we pass in a 4, we pass in a 6, and we pass in a 20. Now it's going to call, when it instantiates this, it's going to call DieMaster and make a die that fits this particular thing, where I say, okay, I want a 4-sided die. Okay, FS. Okay, I want a 6-sided die. Okay, SS. Okay, I want a 20-sided die. TS. Not a huge ordeal, not a big anything really, because then you can go to DieMaster. It's the same process, and as long as it's the same process, it's going to be super easy that way. Okay, so I have this thing which is a variable to hold the rolled value. So after it comes out of being rolled, I need to store it someplace. It's just, I need to store it someplace. That's all I'm going to say about it. Okay, so now we're going to roll. Here's where these variables get used. FSO equals fs dot roll. Roll is in here, and you can see it, int 32 roll, and again, this is where it randomly rolls the die. And I say randomly kind of loosely here because computers don't do anything randomly. But it can simulate something random, and so that's what that is. So it rolls. Now the neat thing is we instantiated 3 things from DieMaster. Okay, FS, SS, and TS. Each time we do that, though, we create a die with its own version of roll, and it'll fix the multiplier. The multiplier is whatever we passed into it here. That sets the number of sides. So if we were talking about FS, then FS would pass in the 4 from here, up here, and it then creates a 4-sided die because it creates that multiplier of 4 and then rolls accordingly. Okay, so when we're doing this, then it creates the proper thing. And one of the benefits that you can derive from this is the following. Yes, we have some reusability, but in object-oriented programming, we can use that same name, that .role, for the method that does this job. Okay, this is something that you can't really do when you're doing reusability on a library in a more primitive language. When you have an object-oriented language, you create a method, and that method is applicable for that particular instance. Okay, so we have an instance for FS, we have an instance for SS, and we have an instance for TS. So each one of those has their own version of role, and it's set by the value of how many sides that went in. So it's kind of cool. We have FSO, we have SSO, and we have TSO. Now, the rest of the program is me being a little silly. Outputting the numbers to the text boxes. You'll see those, and then you'll see what comes after. Okay. Now I'm going to roll all the dice. I could roll them separately, I just didn't want to. Lazy. Okay, so 4-sided die, 6-sided die, and a 20-sided die will all roll at once, like you put them into a cup and dump them all. Okay, so 4, 5, and 1. Now, I went through these and carefully made sure that 1 would come up and that 20 would come up, for instance, or 1 and 6, or 1 and 4. It took me a hot minute because I didn't account for zeros and things like that. Okay, so here you can see I'm being a little stupid over here on the right hand side. I decided I would make sort of a semi-game out of the 4-sided die. There's a few things that come up. So on 4, there's a thing that comes up here and it says, a dragon owned by someone named Pete wanted to play with you. Fortunately, that didn't involve flying you to the sky and dropping you, landing on you, or burning you alive. This seemed to be a friendly dragon. For some reason, only you and Pete can see him. He doesn't seem to understand that he can't just walk through the buildings, and that when he's mad and people, so just give him some space. And if you see someone picking on him, if he sees somebody picking on, you get the idea. Pete's dragon. Okay, so I roll again. This time it came up to a 3. Again, not a lot of choices when you have a 4-sided die. Let's see. When you weren't paying attention, a hungry dragon swooped down and burned you to death for a tasty meal. You died. Let's see if I can get a 2. Oh, well, there's a 1. A dragon is flying overhead. Best take cover. Dragons find humans good to cook and fire and are crunchy and tasty to eat. It's really hard to get. There's one. A dragon has landed in front of you, and a cute-looking woman descends off of it. Still, when she speaks to you, she seems a little like a monster mother, rather, scolding a child, and it's a little off-putting, to be honest. But the dragon seems to follow her every whim. You get the feeling you shouldn't make her angry, or you might end up extra crispy. Okay, now, looking back to the left, you can see the 20-sided die has come up with a 16, the 6-sided die has come up with a 5, and you can keep rolling this. There's a 20, and there's a 6, and an 18. You get the idea. Like I said, I was feeling a little silly when I wrote this. But, um, you know, there's a lot of this that is really very simple. You look at this part over here, um, the text boxes just show you the numbers that were pulled out of FSO. The rest of this over here obviously is all of the text that I outputted to the list box. You can read it or not. I mean, this isn't really relevant to the program. It's just that I took the FSO, which is the four-sided die, and based upon whether it was 1, 2, 3, or 4, I output some specific text. Some of you may find that amusing. If not, well, sorry. Okay, so that's all there is to this program. This demonstrates constructors in the simplest form possible. You pass in some value. The value is taken in right here at sides. Sides is sent to multiplier, int multiplier, right here, and then you use that int multiplier to do this work. And by the way, this one is private because it doesn't need to be outside of the class. Doesn't need to be visible outside of the class. So you can get away with that. Okay, so here's Die Master. Sounds like an exercise machine. And let me roll down to the bottom of. Okay, so all of this is just the rolling of the dice and displaying the die values. So and all the rest of this stuff down here is just the, if I take the value of the four-sided die, then it filters down case 1, case 2, case 3, case 4. I really thought about making this a lot longer, making an actual full game, text game out of it, but I didn't do it. Okay, so that's pretty much the end of this program.